we're always chasing after something in the future, and I'm fall victim to that all the time. I mean, and so what you're basically saying is we gotta make sure we dive into whatever it is that we're doing at this present moment. Let's try to be the best that we can be instead of worrying about this, this thing that maybe isn't even there, or maybe we'll never get there. Let's just try to be the best that we can be every day. Does that kind of make sense?
Exactly. Yeah. I think a lot of us are too calculating in that way, right? Like, oh, is that what I'm doing going towards the right direction, or am I wasting time, right? And when you're thinking like that, you get into like, the decision paralysis, or like you're just kind of stuck because you don't know if you're wasting your time doing the right thing, right? So yeah, I'll give you a good example of that actually, because this will make much more sense. So, when I was 18 years old, 17, 18 years old, I was a senior in high school. I got a job at this place called Kumon, and it's a math learning center. And my job was to grade papers. So, the students will give me their paper and I just look at the answers and check it, right? But, like that's boring job. But for me to just, I was so into it. I memorized all the answers on the answer sheet, so I don't have to like look back and forth. So I was grading paper like 3 times as fast as anyone else. So they ended up like firing the other 2 and like gave me a raise. But things like that happen in I guess what I'm trying to say is like when you're just giving your all into whatever, it doesn't matter whether you're washing the dishes, grading papers, or even cleaning the toilet, whatever, if you give it all, some magically opportunities will come to you. But when you're sitting there calculating like, I'm just gonna do the bare minimum. Oh, why kill myself, right? Like they're not gonna pay me extra. That mentality just keeps you stuck in the same place, right?
Oh man, it makes so much sense. And it reminds me too. I mean, even for me, starting in business at 21, for some reason, I saw the opportunity as a real opportunity, and I just went all in. So people made fun of me. They're like, "Oh, are you rich yet? Are you making $1 million yet?" And I was like, I just want to be great at what I'm doing. So I studied late at night. I mastered sales skills, influence skills. I read every leadership book I could put my hands on. So I did everything I was supposed to do. And then I started winning and started having success, and people started recognizing me. And my mentors, would always brag about me in front of other people. And I started to grow and make a ton of money. And I look back and I tell people all the time, it's just because I didn't overthink it. I just did it. I kind of just had a do it now mindset, and I just went for it, and I put my all into what I was trying to do, and that is I think the reason why
Yeah.
I made it where a lot of people don't make it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
you started Night Owl. So explain, like, what is Night Owl? Like, what is this that you're
Yeah.
building, and what tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, sure. So around 12, 13 years ago, I started Night Owl, which is a agency. So when we started out, we actually just took on every client. So we kind of built our way up. In the beginning, we were working with a lot of tech startup, but quickly we realized that it's a gamble, because like 9 out of 10 of these companies don't make it. So and then we started working with American Red Cross, Spotify, some bigger brands. And then one day, like maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, this woman named Gabby Bernstein came to our office and wanted us to kind of do her branding and website for her. And at the time, we've never done a website or branding project for a personal brand. It's always been corporate brands. But I had so much fun working with her because it's one thing when you're working with the marketing director from American Red Cross, to that person, that's just a job. It's just, she's not trying to do anything that's breakthrough, innovative. She wants to make sure everything is risk-free, done according to the plan, and nothing too innovative, right? Like that's how she keeps her job security, right? So I was kind of getting bored of these projects because I felt like I started my own company basically just to go back to a corporate 9-to-5 job, right? And then when Gabby came, it was a completely different experience because this is her brand. It's literally her face on the brand, right? So we work really closely together. And I kind of got my mojo back. I got my spark back, right? And then when we launched that site won a bunch of awards and just got featured in all these blogs, like top 10 best personal brand websites, So after that, like all the biggest personal brands started reaching out to us. Like, oh, I love what you guys did with Gabby. Can you do something like that? She also introduced us to a bunch of authors. She introduced us to Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty then introduced us to Mark Randolph, like so on and so on. So we kind of, over the last 5-6 years, became a personal branding agency. Now, I thought something weird was happening because around the same time I saw like Ray Dalio kind of, going on YouTube podcasts and like writing a book, like Bob Iger, the chairman of Disney. I'm like, why are these billionaires starting YouTube channels? What's going on? Like Will Smith was doing the same thing around that time. And then when Kylie Jenner like started Kylie Cosmetics, and like in a couple of years, it went to like $1.3 billion in valuation or something like that. I was like, okay, I get. So influence is the new power. And these people know that. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to double down on before that, I never even thought of my own personal brand. I've never put out content before. I was always hidden. I was always the guy behind the curtain, right? Behind the camera. And then one of my mentor, Laura Belgrade, said, stop being your client's best kept secret. So that kind of triggered me. And then I started, when COVID happened, what I did was, because we all went on Zoom, I recorded all of my Zoom conversation with my clients, my employees, and all of that. And I started taking clips from there and started uploading. And, 3 years later, this is where we are.
Yeah, I mean, I like your brand. It's especially at the end of all your posts. You say, I didn't think about it like that. So you're always trying to think of something innovative to teach us that maybe we haven't already thought about it like this, in this way. And this is what I love about your content, and I love how you're giving us kind of a different way to look at something, just an alternative idea. Where did you come up with that, and
Yeah.
how difficult is it to constantly, I'm sure it's difficult, constantly come up with different ways to think about the same thing?
Sure. I love that question. Nobody's ever asked me that question. So, but it's something I really want to answer. So let me tell you. So I never thought of it that way was something I guess people have been telling me for years. But it's just one of those things like, you don't really realize it, right? Until like when I started making content, I kept reading in the comments. I never thought of it that way. I never thought of it. I kept seeing that over and over in the comments. And then I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I just took that as a tagline and put it at the end of all of my slides. And it just, on every content that I make, it just flowed perfectly. It's like, you know what I mean? So I guess during that time, actually, right after I was like, okay, I'm going to make this my slogan. I was talking to, I had a podcast with a friend of mine, and we were talking, and then she was like, oh, I never thought of it that way. It's like, so you know how like when you buy a car, all of a sudden you recognize that same car all over. The same thing started happening. Once I made that my slogan, every time somebody said it, it was like that much more like obvious, right? So I was like, what am I doing that's doing that? And eventually, once I like reverse engineering, like all of my content, what I'm doing is I'm taking, every advice you hear out there, right? Let's say, be yourself, everyone else is taken. Or every quote, every advice you hear out there, if you really break it down, everything is a myth. There's no such thing as a blanket truth, right? Whenever we give an advice, it's always contextual. Yes, it's like that within this context. But when it's like this, so for example, you have to hustle, right? Yes, you should hustle if you're being lazy and working 6 hours a day. But if you're working 18 hours a day, maybe you need a little bit of work-life balance, right? So you can take almost any advice and you can turn it into a myth and break that myth. And the truth is always something between this or this. It's never like black. So what I found out is that everything can be broken to a myth truth. And if you look at all of my content, that's basically what I do. I present a myth, And then I give an example that shows how that myth is wrong. And then I give them the truth. And I realize that every content follows that format. So at Night Owl Nation, basically, I'm teaching storytelling, but the way I'm teaching storytelling is using this myth truth concept. What is a myth you believe in? How can we break that? What's a story that can break that? Something like that.
Thank you for watching our short clips on Alonzo Academy. If you'd like to watch the next short clip, click here. If you'd like to watch the entire podcast, click here.